Good morning, everyone. Welcome to American Scouser's morning coffee or tea with American Scouser. I have the coffee going this morning. It's the most awesome dad going this morning. So you can see right here, it says in the whole entire history of the world ever. I don't take these titles lightly, people. It's not like there's a million of these mugs out there. It was made custom for me, I assume. A lot to get to. Michael Martin is going to be joining us shortly. So some big topics to cover. And I think we're going to have some serious discussion about some of those, because I know we did when we were talking about it on the Discord channel. And if you want to join our Discord channel where we chat about all this stuff and beat each other up throughout the week, just shoot us a message. We'll send you an invite and you can hop on and talk Liverpool and jerseys and the TV and you name it. You can kind of chat along with other contributors as well as some of our fans as well, like this gentleman right here, Alan. Good morning, Timuchin. It says good morning, Alan. And Sparky is with us as well. I'm glad Sparky is out here actually, because one of those topics we've discussed with Sparky actually while he was on live TV, like on the podcast last year. So I want to kind of bring that back up, because we did have an article go up earlier. This one was last night, I believe. So let's kind of talk. We'll talk about that a little bit. But first off, let's bring on Michael Martin over here. See, like Sparky says, told you, douche to Everton. And yes, that's almost a done deal. I don't know if it's official yet, but it sounds like it's pretty much a done deal. So we will definitely talk about that. But let's first bring on our lighting trying to fix friend, Michael Martin over here.
I don't know what's going on over here, but
that's good. That's not bad. How's it going, man?
Oh, it's good. I guess. That looks horrible. That looks horrible. Okay. Anyway, it's going good, except for all
that is like some bad brick job over there.
Yeah.
Just the choosing of the bricks is what's failing you over there. I don't blame the camera.
Exactly.
So a lot to get to. So we'll kind of start with that stuff. The article that I was referencing by Chris Hallenberg on our website. So head on to AmericanScouser.com to give a read to that. To hate Everton or pity them. I think this is a topic we talked about in the past, and it's kind of a different ordeal, I think, for us over here, fans in the US, as opposed to fans back in Liverpool. I feel like they're a lot more split. And it's not like everyone back in Liverpool does not want Everton to get relegated either. I mean, we have a couple in our Discord channel, like people like Kazi, who just drools at just the thought about it. But where do you stand on that, Michael? I mean, do you, personally, I talked about this on the show before, not being from Liverpool, I didn't know the hatred and the rivalry as much till I lived in England. But even after that, my bigger hatred is always for United. So I see those games. Those games are a lot more important than the derby, for example. But over time, I have grown a healthy dose of Everton hate, and Lampard definitely added to that. And now that Sean Douche is going to be there, I've taken it up to the next level. But where do you stand on it?
Yeah, it's for me, honestly, it's gone back and forth over the years. I've been a Liverpool supporter since probably the early 90s was the first time I really started to have access to information. You know, I knew who they were. I've been in soccer since I was 5 years old. But, once the internet came and you really started to get access to really learn about the club, the culture, the players, the fixtures, the statistics, and all of that. And for me, Everton over those years has gone back and forth and ironically, my brother's an Everton supporter. He went to the UK as part of his undergraduate, some study abroad, and he went to an Everton match. And being a soccer fan as well, he had never been exposed to anything like that. And he was like, this is the greatest thing ever. I'm a blue. And off he goes. So, for me, it circles around the derby, which over the years seems to go in and out of what the derby historically has been, right? You picture there's years where it is just intense. The teams are fairly even and it's physical, and there's hard challenges and late challenges, and there's yellow cards and sending offs, and there's players yelling at managers. And I mean, that's what I want the derby to be. And because of the gap between the two clubs the last several years, the derby for me is, there's part of me that would say, if we didn't play Everton twice a year, that's bad, because that's usually 4 or 6 points in the books. But it would be very compelling to me to see what would happen if they went down. And I don't know that I would be cheering it like I would cheer, some of the folks I think in the channel even say, hey, it goes Champions League for me, right? And then slightly below that, Everton getting relegated, and then so I'm not in that category, but I would be interested in the experiment that would be to see Everton relegated. What would happen with their supporter, their fan base? What would happen with the club? The board, the leadership. Would they bounce right back up, or would they just fall apart for a few years? And I think where they're at right now, if I was an Everton supporter, I would be incredibly concerned about relegation, because I could see them going down and staying down for a few years before they could have the opportunity to come back up. But I'm with you. I hate United with a passion. I want United in. I want them. I want them relegated forever. Whereas I don't mind, seeing Everton a couple times a year.
And I think this is like basically like Sparky says, not good for the city of Liverpool if they went. And I think this is the biggest difference compared to a lot of the other, what we would consider like big derbies and stuff. I mean, I'm from Istanbul, grew up as a Fenerbahce fan. This side over here. My grandfather right there is, one of their all-time best players and stuff. So obviously like kind of like it's in the family. And then I started following Liverpool. I think it was like 84. And then like I say, when I came to and lived in the UK, that kind of like and follow became more of like a passion and really love and stuff like that for Liverpool. But I think the biggest difference is when you look at a team like, Fenerbahce going against Galatasaray. I know Besiktas wants to get in the mix, but it's always been Fenerbahce, Galatasaray. You look at Madrid, it's like Real versus Atletico and stuff like that. So when you talk about these cities with these like huge derby rivalries, it's usually a lot of hate and not a lot of supports and, like common, what you want to call it, like common challenges, if you will. I mean, there's nothing to complain about as a team in Istanbul. You are in Istanbul. So, or you're in Madrid and stuff like that. So like most of these cases, I think in Liverpool's case, it's kind of like a bit more torn and split because of the challenges that the city has had and how these clubs kind of have like supported each other over the years in not on the field, but off the field. So I think that's why some fans are torn and do not want that, either like Sparky is saying, for the greater good of the city more than Everton. Maybe they could care less about Everton, but they care about the city more than they care less about Everton, kind of like a deal.
Or their family members, and who, there's families that are split, and while it might be fun to think of Everton going down, to think of how that could affect, your granddad, who supports Everton, and your Liverpool support, it's just things like that. I think the soft side of it, I think is lost. I think the blue shirts, if they had a little championship logo on the sleeve, I think I would sit back and laugh at that. But I do think about the softer side of things.
Yeah, I think the grandfather part makes a bit more sense to me. See, Sparky says half the family support Everton too. See, like my brother supports Everton, United, and that would make it even more joyful for me that they're getting relegated just because of the banter factor and be like, who are you guys playing this week? Sunderland? That would be the fun part of it to me. But so obviously, like I say, I don't have as big of a dislike like I have for United, but over the years, especially like recent years, has added to me more the whole, I just find a squad that's very unlikable in Everton. Maybe that helps the cause. Like,
that's true.
Godfrey and Pickford. Like, there's so many guys that's like so easy to hate. Even Gordon, like the young kid they brought by that's flipping and flopping.
All right, you know what? Send him down.
Yep. Case closed.
I'm no longer neutral.
So, like that whole Pickford Van Dijk thing and stuff, it's almost like built up. Then Fat Frank was there, which adds a whole other level for me. And now the guy that I despise probably more than Fat Frank, Sean Dyche, as I like to call him, Sean Douche, might end up there, whose idea of soccer is basically, you don't have good players, that's fine. Just kick the good ones, and then we'll get a set piece, and maybe we can bully our way to a goal.
Yeah.
Do you think... I'm first of all amazed that he would go for this gig. I'm assuming he's hoping and he thinks, this year is not going to be a problem. He will get to stay and then he can make improvements along the way. And the guy can set his team to play defense. But we said the same thing about, Lampard for the most part, but their issues are more offensively. They just can't freaking score goals. And this is not a coach that, he's not a manager that helps you get goals. So what do you think his impact will be?
Yeah, so I do think that Dyche. I think even when Frank was sacked, I think a lot of people were talking Dyche right away, and I do think that if Everton's going to stay up, they will need an incredibly resolute defense, and they will have to just flat out be opportunistic in their own attacking box. And I think Dyche, I think he could get it done. I think Frank's problem was Frank can set up to defend, but I think there's even a little bit of a chip on his shoulder that says, listen, I'm not going to be that manager that just defends only and then hopes we score on a corner kick, because I played midfield and I played with some of the best players, and we can still make it work up top. Whereas Dyche is going to say, screw it. I'll take 0-0. If we did 0-0 2 weeks in a row, that's a win, in my book. And he's not looking to get back to the middle of the table. He's looking to get to 17. And if it's 17 by 1 point, he could care. And we know about Dyche, he doesn't care what the football looks like. In fact, I think he actually takes some pride in the ugliness that he rolls out there, both tactically and also, to your point, the late challenges, the physical, I'm fine with physical nature, but the, dirty, careless, like, hey, we're going to win at all costs. If I have to break your leg, I'll break your leg. That helps us. It hurts you. Off we go. I don't like that. I don't like Dyche. I didn't like him at Burnley. I'm sure I won't like him at Everton, and I don't even know that I would like him at Liverpool, and that'll never happen. But
that sounds like a Dr. Zeus book. I will like him anywhere.
Yeah. I don't like him here. I don't like him there. So I think it's with what's available for them to grab quickly and not lose traction. Right now the fixtures come together so quickly. They don't have, in a normal Premier League season, they would have 2 or 3 weeks to have a caretaker manager and sort things out. But they're what are they, 19th in the table? I haven't looked at the table this week, right? They don't have time to take 3 weeks and sort out who the best long-term manager is. They need to get someone in and stop the bleeding immediately. The list of candidates is very short that are available with Premier League experience. And all of those. And then the list of ones that would actually take the assignment is probably a much shorter list. So for that reason, I think you're stuck with.
Yeah, I'm almost shocked that he would take it, because he's probably one of the top guys for a team, as a candidate for a team that barely gets to stay up, right? Like this season, like if Southampton manages to stay up barely and stuff like that, and they're like, hey, you know what? We don't want to go through this again. Let's make some changes in the offseason. He would be a guy, he would be a target. And that goes for like a lot of other clubs like that, whether it's Bournemouth or whatever. That's why I'm kind of like shocked that he took this gig, knowing it's not even like, first of all, he has only like 3-4 days over here to make any additions, but there are no funds for those additions. I know they're talking about moving Gordon. I don't know if they will kind of like try to get some of that on the back, but I'm kind of like shocked he went for it. Actually, I would see why Everton went for him, but I just did not understand why
he would. I think I think if you look at it, it's, as a manager, it's almost a can't lose situation, right? If you take them over at 19, they end up 18th, they go down, they don't keep him. He tried, right? If he happens to get them to 14th or 15th, right, it gets the locker room on his side, then there's a lot of upside for him. I don't think he can take a step back managerially in his career by taking this assignment for 5 months and seeing what he can do with it. And maybe that's part of the thought process, and it's not like
Sean want to become Big Sam this early in his career.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, it's not like he has a huge legacy that's at risk here, because I don't know anybody that loves him. Period. I don't care who supports, Liverpool supporters, Arsenal supporters. I don't know anybody that looks at Dyche and is like, that's the kind of guy that I want managing my team. So I think there's no lose for him. Give it a shot and go for it. So I'm not surprised by it from that standpoint.
Yeah, Alan says Everton's next 2 games are Arsenal on the 4th and then us on the 13th. And I think that almost helps his case, right? I mean, you could have 5 managers on the sideline managing that team, and they would not have a lot of hope against Arsenal the way things are right now.
Right.
Us is always a different thing, because even if there's a huge gap in level, there's the whole derby atmosphere and stuff like that can kind of like change things. So I think that, he would have that date probably circled to start getting results and call February 4 a wash anyway, because like I say, wouldn't matter what would be. And yeah, I'm assuming, I would agree that he's probably what makes Everton fans the happiest right now, and probably gives them the most hope, I would think. But that's mainly because like some of the other names out there and some of the people that turned them down or like did not even want to like kind of entertain the thought, because like I say, you're jumping on a sinking ship, and if you're a guy who could possibly get other jobs at the end of the season or better opportunities, because they're in kind of like shambles financially too, so it's not like once you save your butts, you can make some improvements over summer and stuff. They got a lot to unload to be able to get there. While they have some quality on that roster, it's just like the back line and stuff like that is kind of in shambles. Jamie says, Timuchin needs to finish painting that wall for Michael. Yeah, that wall is hopeless, man. There's nothing I can do.
Settings. Here we go. Let's get
Oh, there we go. See, even the room is that room is better right there. I think you get like a wall decal going and all that kind of good stuff. Let's get to the next topic over here. And this one, I'm glad Jamie's on here, because this will definitely get him going over here. So we had a huge discussion on this on the Discord channel as well, and I see it online too. And okay, so let's get this out of the way, right? Half of the reason, definitely not in our Discord channel, but half of the reason overall that I see people criticizing is because it's LeBron, and people love to criticize LeBron, and there's a lot of reasons for that. Part of it being he doesn't just dribble as some would like him to, and that's part of that reason. So let's put that aside, and let's not kid ourselves that at least 25% of the people hating on this are hating on this because of that. If I don't know, Donkey or somebody like that was wearing this, it would be like a totally different story, and the conversation will be different. So let's get back to the jersey itself. I mean, I consider it, I wouldn't buy it, right? I consider it kind of hideous and stuff like that. But I think the issue over here is whenever you do something like this and you're using this guy who, let's face it, a lot more people in the world know LeBron, definitely in the US over here, compared to Liverpool. So that's kind of like the target market you're trying to appeal into. See, Alan says, what a crap jersey. Oh, wait, the jersey's okay. It's the bloke wearing it. Yeah, I think that's where a lot of people are at, Alan, and I agree to that. But so what do you make of it overall? Like I say, it doesn't appeal to me, but it doesn't have to appeal to me. And I don't think we'll ever agree on, anytime a jersey comes out, half the people are like, that's ugly. Half of the people are like, I kind of like it. So where do you stand on this whole ordeal?
Yeah, so I think, first of all, LeBron, the greats are always polarizing for the most part, right? People either love or hate LeBron. People either love or hate Ronaldo. That's what happens when the greats are out there. And for me personally, I'm so mature, I can see past that and get to the
standing ovation.
Yeah, that's for me. So, and it's really weird for me to talk about this. If LeBron has or will have, I think, a Nike Air Max shoe, and I think that's awesome, because LeBron's a basketball player, and their shoe historically has been something that basketball players have used for their image, to create a buzz or a stir. And I think for me, that makes a ton of sense. I look at that shoe and it's like, that's pretty cool. So LeBron putting on a football kit that's a hybrid crossover, collaboration, for me, first of all, it doesn't make sense to me in the way that a shoe would for a basketball player. All right, but that's how my brain works. That's right, wrong, indifferent. The shirt itself, I think if you look at the soccer culture, soccer purists would probably look at that shirt and say that's hideous, right? NBA culture would probably look at that and say, oh, that's pretty tight. So I did my own independent study, and I think it was Men in Blazers had posted it on their Instagram and said, hey, what do you guys think? So that's not Liverpool supporters. That's just an audience in general. And I read through some of the comments, and it looked like it was about 50-50. You know, people saying that shirt's fire. Where can I get one? And the next person saying that's the ugliest shirt they've ever seen. This collaboration, is LeBron trying to pull Liverpool in, right? Or is LeBron trying to promote himself? And there were some comments about, you know, well, which logo's bigger and where's it positioned? And I don't get into the details on that. For me, it's an ugly shirt. I could see why, and again, I'm old enough to think that one of the things that's always irritated me in life, whether I'm old or young, is just because someone famous wears something doesn't mean it looks good, right? So you'll see that with athletes. I think some guy walked into an Eagle. I'm an Eagles fan, Philadelphia Eagles, and when the Giants came to the Eagles the other day, some guy walked in and he had on some kind of hoodie that zipped in the front, like all the way over his head. And I was like, I can't remember who it was. I can't remember who it was, but I was like, that's stupid. And that's someone famous taking advantage of small-minded people. Because now people will be like, oh, I got to have that hoodie that zips over my face. And you don't really need that hoodie. So I look at this and I say, some people will like it simply because LeBron wore it. They're not looking at the color. They're not looking at the stripes. They're not looking at the patterns. Is it a Liverpool logo, or what's this thing in the middle? Is that LeBron? You know, so I think that's where this will end up. I don't care if LeBron wore it or Joel Embiid wore it. Go Sixers. But I personally don't like the jersey itself, the style. I don't get the crossover. Like I said, sneaker makes sense to me. Jersey doesn't, but that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't care if it was like a hat or whatever, really. The whole concept is to get it, you know, to get it promoted more. And if it's going to be, but we were talking about if it's going to buy Bellingham, I don't care what it is. Yeah. You know what I mean? I don't care if it's like a bracelet. I mean, just do it, as Nike would say. I mean, I don't care. Just get the sales, get the income, and go about it that way. And obviously this goes to I mean, we were talking about this on Monday, and I brought this up in our Discord chat too. We were talking about it on the Monday show, and actually the Wednesday show, maybe. We're talking about like how, you know, the last Arsenal United games in the US was like the top watched game of all time, like on NBC or whatever, and it was only like 1.9 million. Whereas the Cowboys 49ers game that was on the same day was at like 45 million or something like that. So obviously there's a huge, much bigger market than the soccer market that they're marketing this to. This is probably not for, first of all, I honestly don't think this is for Liverpool fans anyway. Because me, you, Alan, Sparky, and anybody else, like, you know, Jane, like all these people in the chat as well, anybody watching right now, we're going to probably go buy the jersey. Anyway, like we're already sold. We're in. They've already sucked us in. We're already established. We're gonna buy it, whatever. Every year they're gonna come up with 3 jerseys, and we're gonna be like, oh, this year I'm gonna buy this one. We're just gonna buy the one that we like the most. Some years we're gonna buy 2. Some years we're gonna buy freaking 3. You know, like they already have our money. This is for people that they don't have the money of, and in the US especially, and or even around the world, nobody better than LeBron to push something to that market that's non-Liverpool right now. And yeah, you're right. A lot of people are going to buy that because LeBron is wearing it, because next time you see it at a party or a club or something like that, dude is going to be wearing it. They're like, oh, that's the one LeBron was wearing like 2 months ago and stuff like that. So, and I really don't care why the hell they buy it. I mean, it doesn't appeal to me partially because I'm old as dirt. And honestly, like, you know, I mean, I have like a daughter who just turned 18. My other daughter's like in college, like doing masters and stuff. So I'm old as dirt, but I know like sometimes, like we went to the mall, what was it, like right after Christmas, I think early January, for something else. And, you know, Layla happened to want to go into one of these stores. So she goes in. So I'm that dad that's standing in the corner, like just hoping I could just disappear, you know? And, you know, like standing there, I'm looking around. I'm like, I wouldn't buy any of this shit because to me, they all look fugly as hell. But there was a line at the register.
Yeah.
So obviously there are people buying this, and that's what they're going after.
Right. No, I agree. I actually went to the mall over the holidays too, and the thing I walked away from was, if I never go to the mall again in my life, I will be just fine. So I guess that's official old man syndrome.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I think as long as the income is generated, I'm all for it. Just bring it on. And then I think, like I say, almost like, to me, it's made a bigger deal than it is. And I don't know if that's because it's LeBron wearing it. I don't know if that's because, is it, okay, let me ask you this. Do you think it's because it's an American wearing it, or it's kind of like more targeted for this audience, which represents more commercialization, which, you know, like corporate world, money, greed, and stuff like that? So it automatically, it could be the most beautiful shirt of all time, and it will still get hate.
You would still hate it because it represents some kind of a commercial aspect, that you want the club to remain pure and true to its roots and its legacy. So why do we need the world's second or third most popular athlete to wear a shirt around and promote it? So I do think LeBron is part of it, and that's either going to have there's some people that'll be neutral, but for some people that'll be incredibly positive effect, and for some people that'll be negative. Doesn't matter what LeBron does, right? Just for some reason they don't like him. Maybe it's because they're pro Jordan or pro Kobe or whatever it is. So I think there's a lot of different elements there. Excuse me. But I do think for some, it may represent a commercial side of the sport that is inevitable, yet you don't want to embrace, because you hate that it's going there. You know, it kind of goes back to some of the commentary on the new owners, not to change gears, but, you know, the commercial aspect of football, and global brands, is undeniable, and you can't ignore it. And if this is something that somebody feels would help to expand the Liverpool brand, you know, and they've weighed out like, hey, we could gain this many supporters, and yeah, the old guard may not like it, but the old guard's not going to be around forever, and we need to always replenish and have new people coming in. You know, maybe there's some thought behind that. So I think there's this. It's LeBron, it's the commercial aspect, it's the ugliness of the jersey, it's a whole bunch of things all wrapped up into one.
Yeah, Metosh says, would a lot to see one of the players on the team wear it before LeBron did, to really get a sense of how people felt about it. Yeah, that's a good point, actually. If you saw Van Dijk wearing it first, I don't know, the feedback would be a lot different. Right. It'll always go back to who's wearing it. Granted, I don't think it's a good-looking shirt, but still. And let's face it, the Polish Prince is our fashion representative on this. So if it's poo-pooed by him, it's not a good look overall. I think here's another part of it. Sparky Parky says, oh, next we'll have the Red Sox wearing it. And I think that's what I mean. Like, people are afraid of LeBron is wearing a shirt. What's next, kind of a thing. And they feel like it's like a slippery slope. And it is for the American audience. I mean, that's the thing. And it is for the world audience. But the thing that gets to me, and I know like we're kind of like too late in the show, so maybe we'll talk about this on like Monday or Wednesday's show. But that's what gets to me sometimes, is we want Liverpool to compete globally, take on other teams that are, heck, some of them funded by freaking governments, or using the commercial market, like, you know, Madrid and Barcelona and stuff like that. That's how they cash in. It's not like there's so many people in freaking Spain. They're getting it from like worldwide sales, especially in South America and stuff like that. So we want our team to compete in that sense, but we want it to stay local at the same time. And that shit is not going to happen. I mean, if you want to stay local, then you're not going to compete on the big scale of things. There's no way. Those days are way gone. I'm not a fan of the fact that those days are way gone, but it's the truth, and we can deny it all we want, and we can fight it all we want. You know, we were talking about this yesterday on the Discord channel as well. We can fight it all we want. The reality will stay there at the end of the day when we walk away, which is you need money to compete. And I don't consider this as like, it's not like it's selling out. It's ultimately using another brand and doing a collab work, which is how the world works these days.
It is. If you check out my YouTube channel, you'll see some of my. No, I'm just joking. So, I agree. I think I think I'm torn on it to some extent. Even when Klopp came in, Liverpool hit a great couple of years. Trophies and the bottom line is when you win things, you catch people's attention, and next thing you know, you see 13-year-olds walking around with Liverpool jerseys on, with Mo Salah jerseys, and that's just the nature of success. And I think in this current situation, when you talk about getting back on our perch and staying on our perch, right? And people use that language. I think about Leicester a few years ago, and they caught lightning in a bottle. Leicester's not a global brand. They had one of the most statistically incredible runs that year that we'll probably ever see. I can't imagine us seeing anything like that again. Yeah. Right. And look where they're at now, because they're not a global brand. They don't have the commercial backing. They had an incredible year. Their best players all left. And, they're right where they should be. They're usually somewhere between 9th and 15th in the table. And that's who they are, and that's who they will be. And I think, if you want to be Liverpool, if you want to be someone that says you're a top 5, top 7 club in the world, Liverpool caught its own lightning in a bottle, when Klopp came in, right? And bought a number of players for relatively cheap and either got really lucky or did an incredible job developing them and had this incredible run of 3 or 4 years. And if you want to stay globally relevant, top of table, last 4 of the Champions League every year, challenging for the FA Cup because your team is deep enough to rotate players, you need the money, and investments required, investment in players. They invested, FSG's invested an incredible amount in the club, stadium expansion, training center. I mean, I think they've been a great steward, but if they're unwilling to invest now on the player side, right? Because they've already upgraded the stadium. There's not much more you can do there. They've upgraded the training center. What are you going to build? Another one every 5 years? So that's not. So
put an extra room in.
So now it's in the players, and FHG's model is creating value for the club. And, a new training center does that, a larger stadium does that, game day revenue, all that kind of stuff. So I think they can connect those dots. I think they struggle in connecting the dots on, you know what? The next 250 million that we spend needs to be on 5 people. And I don't think that connects for them. And that's why there's opportunity for investment. And you need to. Now, I will say this, it's completely unrelated, but we talked about this a few weeks ago. The question was, will Klopp be the manager, a good manager for a team that's spending freely and has that depth? And the one thing that I love to hate about him is that squad rotation. And if you do go out and spend a lot of money on players and you're not rotating that squad, you're going to have a lot of highly paid, disgruntled players. So I think there's exciting times ahead if the right ownership comes in, and that's another podcast to define what is the right ownership. But that's where I think that commercial part, you want to be relevant long term. You need that commercial savvy to be at the next level, that next level.
Yeah, I mean, this is another thing I don't agree with, where it's like also upgraded their investment more than the team. But I mean, that's like a lose-lose, right? So if FSG can't win, so you improve the club, but then you're like, well, you're not improving the club, you're just improving your investment. I mean, they cannot improve their club without improving their investment. The investment is improving because the club is improving. I mean, that's like basically the bottom line.
It goes in concert. It goes in concert, right? The best players want the best training facilities.
Yes.
So what you're going to do? Are you going to get the best players first and then upgrade your facilities? Or are you going to go ahead and get the facilities, while you can, and of course, the tax accountants and everything can determine where that money goes and how it's better spent on equipment or people or facilities or what have you. So, it's the chicken and egg, but in an ideal situation, they move forward together. FSG wasn't the owner to move that forward together. They were pragmatic in their approach. It was a long-term play. The club's much, much better off. And And now, and I think that's
There was like
why
a great article, I think it was in the Athletic the other day, talking about, how they financed that. Maybe you may not agree with how they did it, the loan and stuff like that, but it sounded, I mean, basically the moral of the story in the article was the fact that all that stuff is paid off now. So this summer could be the summer now that's like all that stuff is paid off, so the money can go to the players. So let's go to the weekend real quick, because you did bring the FA Cup real quick. What do you expect, or what do you want to see, more importantly, this weekend in terms of the lineup? Do you want a lineup that's strong so we build some momentum, or rest the guys even more, because obviously they're not going to play for like another week now and fields a younger team?
Yeah, no, I think you go for it here. I think it's important, and this was covered, I think, maybe in the channel or maybe another podcast, with the 3-0 loss at Brighton just a couple weeks ago. I think this is an opportunity not just to progress in the cup, but to potentially make a bit of a statement and say, yes, we realize that 3-0 was the worst game we've played in X number of years. And that's not who we are. And I don't think that, I mean, Liverpool struggled this year. The inconsistency has been incredible, but Liverpool's not as bad as they were that day. They're not that bad. And Brighton's playing very, very well, but Brighton's not that good, right? If Liverpool and Brighton play 10 times, Brighton doesn't win 3-0 every time. It's just not going to happen. So I think there's a chance to make a little bit of a statement in a short term, turnaround. If that game was 3 months ago, then I probably would take maybe a different approach. But I think you go with a strong lineup. I think Nunez is back in up top. I would imagine gets the start after the cameo he made at the end of the last match. And I think that you go with like a Gakpo, Nunez, and Salah up front. And I think those three, except for how Mo's been playing, but I think those three should be enough to get you a handful of good looks in a match. I still think right now, because of the defensive uncertainty, it does limit us, but I think you do have to be a little more conservative at the back, and not have that high line. Do not let them split the lines and be coming at our back line with the ball at their feet. Force them to not have those gaps, especially in the midfield. Brighton seemed to get the ball between our back line and our holding mids with an incredible amount of space, and about maybe, I don't know, about less than a third of the field, a little bit over a third of the field to just run at them. And that's not where we're at our best right now. So I think that no high line. I think you go with a strong lineup and you really go for this win. I am not of the camp of I like to exit cup competitions because it frees up the schedule, and I don't believe that stuff at all. And I think that if you are a team that's facing relegation, if you're a team that's doesn't have aspirations, then maybe you take that approach. This is Liverpool Football Club, and even though we've been inconsistent, even though we're currently maybe 8th in the table, there's still aspirations there for silverware, and there's opportunities to advance in this cup competition. My only hope is that Brighton looks at it and says, it's just Liverpool. We can field a weakened lineup. and then we have a really good chance to progress.
Yeah, I agree to all that. Really, I do want a strong lineup as well. And like Sparky says, I mean, this is a good chance at a trophy, and why not just go for it? Not to mention, I feel like if we were playing again like on like Wednesday or Tuesday or something like that, I'd be like, you know what? Let's play it safe. Let's not play this guy. But we don't play for another full week, which is plenty of recovery time. So I'd rather build the momentum, make things right from the Brighton game, like you're saying, and hopefully get something out of this game. Having said all that, what is your prediction? What do you see happening? Give me a prediction final.
And I think, and I haven't looked this up and I don't recall, I know there's a point in the FA Cup where it does not go to replay. And I don't know if this round would go to replay or not. Sure. But if I had to pick, I think I would have picked a draw, and that it comes back to Anfield. That's what, but if it doesn't go to replay, it'll go to PKs, and Liverpool will advance in penalties.
I'll take it. 2-1 says Sparky. I'll go with the 2-1 as well. It's going to be a slow burn, I think, but I am kind of hopeful that front's line kind of makes it. If you're going to have to able to have Nunez in the middle and put Gakpo on the wing, where I think he enjoys a lot more, I think it kind of like allows us to do a bunch of stuff. Well, before we go, since you admitted you're a freaking Eagles fan and I'm a 49ers fan, give me a prediction for that game. I'm not very hopeful on this one, but I'm a pessimist, especially when it comes to American football.
Yeah. So I think most things point in the Eagles' favor. And I think the biggest thing is going to be, Purdy's done a great job as a rookie coming in and obviously getting results. But he's 6 of the 8 games he's played have been at home. And he's going to enter an environment in Philadelphia like he's not seen. And I think that plays heavily to the Eagles' favor. I think they're going to get pressure on him. And I do think the Eagles win. I don't think it's easy, but I do think they win. I think it'll be something like 27-17, 27-20. That's kind of where I see the game.
Man, freaking Sparky this morning. Now he wants Eagles. I mean, why do you dislike me so much, Sparky? yeah, I don't know. I'm not very hopeful on this one. I think more than how 49ers plays really depends on how your guy's quarterback plays. If he makes plays like running and stuff like that, and what defense gets the offense. I think we play conservative with Purdy and stuff like that. I find a lot of similarities with like the initial Liverpool resurgence, where I find this 49ers team, win or lose, very likable. I don't know what it is, but it's like, like even if they lost last week, I find this squad overall and the dynamic very likable. And even worse, Sparky is a freaking Patriots fan.
Well, that's now that we know that.
Now you lost Michael too. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks a lot, Michael.
Thank you.
We'll get the win this weekend, and when we come back on Monday, we'll be in the next round on the FA Cup, and I'm assuming that's when we find out who we will play as well. Thanks to all those. Have an awesome weekend, and we'll see you guys on Monday. Take care.
Take care.